So it's time to answer questions asked by $3 supporters for the penultimate month of 2021. That means it's your last chance to ask me anything for 2021, and you can do so at the links below. Let's start over on Subscribestar, where Tomasz Urbański has a shout out for us. You too can ask for a shout out by contributing at the $5 level. He writes, "For those who are interested in alternative Facebook-like social networks, there's a new one, atheist.social. Site is fully functional, but it's still in its infancy, so feel warned." You know, for something that's supposedly a monopoly, Facebook sure does have a lot of alternatives. So check this one out. Rainbow Asteroids writes, "How do you feel about loot boxes in video games and their comparison with gambling? Is it gambling? And should the state and/or someone do something about it? I don't really have an opinion. Buy and sell what you want. I really don't see how it's gambling. It's more like a grab bag. I remember those from back in the day and nobody called them gambling. They're also saying they're addictive, which is an even bigger joke. It sounds like a combination of the old Calvinist trick, this is popular so let's spread panic about it, and the sour grapes a gamer might get when he bought a loot box and he didn't like the contents. But as with everything else in life, you pays your money, you takes your chances. And no, the state shouldn't have anything to do with it. Although I have no doubt that's the goal of all this fear-mongering. Agony writes, "I dislike credit bureaus and how easy it is to have your identity stolen. No argument there. I heard a long time ago that it would be possible to use a blockchain to have an anonymized, encrypted credit history with the security that comes from the technology, but I have not heard anything about it recently. Probably because it's a terrible idea. Blockchains are immutable. Once something is there, it's there forever. So the first problem is, how do you get a bogus entry removed from your blockchain credit report? At least there's theoretically a procedure to do that with the credit bureaus, although in my experience it's way too difficult to do and they are far too trusting of the banks, but if you keep plowing through it, you can get it done. The other thing is, depending on what it is, a bad entry on your credit will go away after either 7 or 10 years, so a mistake won't follow you for the rest of your life. But with the blockchain, it'll follow you for life, and the lives of your children, and your children's children. I don't think going back to Old Testament-style morality is any solution." Do you know if anyone is working on a competitor to the bureaus? Not to any serious degree. I suppose the online reputation systems are something of a competitor, but they're still in their infancy. The problem is all the protectionism given to the big three credit bureaus. If they aren't even held responsible for routine identity theft, and even worse, victim blaming, saying the onus is on you to proactively put a lock on your credit, that's a form of disaster we can't really fix. I mean, it's not like we chose to give them our data. Complain all you want about Facebook and Amazon not being good stewards of your data. At least they only use the data we give them. You have zero control over the massive and incredibly personal data the credit bureaus collect. Yet while the politicians are bleeding on about big tech, how many of them have said one word about the credit bureaus? They know who butters their bread. And finally, over on Patreon, the executioner has something that seems to be half question, half shout out. I'd be generous and say it's a question, but he's a $5 supporter, so it doesn't matter either way. He writes, "Covenant communities, as defined by Hans Herman Hoppe, are voluntary communities based on a contract. As libertarians, we are for the freedom to organize, to come together as long as it's voluntary. Many have a contention against CCs for propagating hierarchies. I ask, why is hierarchy wrong?" Well, it isn't. That's ANCOM garbage. That isn't my problem with covenant communities anyway, but I'll get to that. If it's voluntary, why is it any business of anyone outside that community how it ought to be run? In Hoppe's lectures, he points out how it is all voluntary, nothing can be forced. He goes on a bit, but I'll let you read that for yourself. Here's the problem. If all you're talking about is a contract you've made with property owners in your area, that's one thing. But what happens the moment someone decides to sell their property? If I buy property from someone else and some buck-eyed authoritarian comes along and says I have obligations because of what the last guy agreed to, I'm going to feel some kind of way. If I don't personally agree to whatever stupid fake laws you've come up with, what are you going to do about it? Either you're going to use force against me and become a state, or your covenant community is going to crumble bit by bit. On average, homeowners live in a home 10 years before selling it. So if 10 years later, half of your covenant is moved on, what do you do then? Or after 20 years when only a quarter are left? It's a nice idea in theory, but then people have said that about communism too. The fact is, the only law you can legitimately hold people to is the NAP, and there really doesn't seem to be any way around it. So that's it for another month. Thanks for watching, and please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. You'll also find the links to my Patreon and Subscribestar there, so you can become a regular supporter and get all my content early, which I've been having to change up a bit because Daily Motion is becoming asinine. I'm going to try using YouTube for the early unlisted videos to give to supporters, and we'll see if they give me the same crap they did last time. If they do, I guess I'll have to find another solution for unlisted videos. Anyway, you'll get the early videos some kind of way, hopefully without ads the way Daily Motion started putting on every video, without giving us creators any of it. And you can also get other benefits like special Discord access, as well as monthly AMAs and shoutouts. Thanks again, and until next time, stay strong and be free.